Hello and welcome to Arduino for Amateurs. This is episode number 22, External Power Supplies. As always, my name is Matt Gracie. I'm a hacker from Buffalo, New York. I'm a member of the Bithaven Hackerspace. And what I'm talking about in this video is how to use an external breadboard power supply with your Arduino projects. This is sort of a prelude to the next video where I'm going to be doing a little bit more hardware stuff that requires some more current. So I'm going to be using a separate power supply rather than pumping everything through the Arduino. The particular model that I'm talking about today is one of these. It's called an MB102. These are very, very common. If you have a starter kit from a company like Elegoo, you probably have one of these in there. If you're like me, you probably looked at it, said, I have no idea what that is, and threw it back in the box. But it's actually a very helpful little piece of hardware. So what this does is you mount it on the end of a breadboard, and we'll see what that looks like. And it powers the rails for you. So you can plug in those DuPont wires to wire things like servos or LEDs or potentiometers, whatever you need to power, without pumping everything through the Arduino itself. This is good for a couple of reasons. One, it can pump a little bit more power through because you're not siphoning some off to power the Arduino itself. But also, it doesn't have the same sort of voltage regulation as the Arduino. It can actually push a little bit more current. I believe an Arduino is limited to about 200 milliamps, and this will do about 700. So you can get some more power into your electronics if you push it with one of these external power supplies rather than doing it through the Arduino. Now this is the top view of the power supply, and I'll have one down here on my document camera in a minute. But looking at the top here, we see we've got two sets of pins here, say plus and minus. These plug into the breadboard. We'll see what that looks like in a moment. And then here above each of them, we have this jumper setup. So we can set the voltage for each rail independently by setting this jumper. So if we move this from this end, see how it's on 3.3 right now, it's covering these two pins. If we cover these two pins, it will be off. If we cover these two pins, it will be 5 volts. And same thing on this side. You can actually set the rails to separate voltages if you want. Here, this is a set of powered pins. So if you want to connect a jumper to this out to some other piece of electronics, or if you want to power something like an LCD display directly from this power supply rather than going through the breadboard, you can connect that stuff here. This is a power switch, which is another advantage to using one of these power supplies. You have a physical power switch to turn things on and off rather than having to do it all programmatically. This is a power indicator, so we'll see when the power switch is pressed, this turns green. And then these two pieces here, these are how we get power into the device. So this is a regular DC barrel jack, right? So you can plug in a regular sort of wall wart power supply up to 12 volts and an amp, I believe, is usually the threshold. And that will power all of this and then power the rails on your breadboard. Or if you like, this is a USB-A port. And if you look at my document camera here, you can see these come with a weird sort of USB cable that's got the USB-A on both ends. We plug one end of this into a USB hub or a power brick like you might use to charge a phone. We plug the other end into the power supply that powers the breadboard for us. So that's what we're going to do in the demo in a moment. Okay, if we want to see what one of these looks like in person, let me grab one off my desk here. So this is the power supply. See here we've got the pins. If I want to change the voltage, I can just pull off this jumper here and put it back on to set the voltage that I want. In this case, I've got both of these set to 5 volts. There's my toggle switch. Here's my USB port and my barrel for charging. And then on the bottom here, we can see these are the pins that go into the breadboard. We'll see that in just a moment. So here I've got sort of a mini breadboard. You may remember this very simple circuit from the hardware video. I think it was episode 3, where we've got just some power coming in. It's going into one end of a 220 ohm resistor, going through the LED, and then back to ground. What we do if we want to power this with our power supply is we just take the power supply, and you see we've got the pins there. We put the pins into the rails on the side of our breadboard, push it in, and that's all there is to it. Now I have a power supply mounted onto the end of this circuit. If I want to power it, I can either plug in a power supply brick here, or I can plug in my two-headed USB cable. So that's what we're going to do, because I have a USB hub here on my desk. Plug that port in here. Got it on the first try, must be a miracle. Plug this port in over here. And there we go. So we've got it all plugged in. Now when I push this toggle, you'll see the power indicator goes on, and our LED should turn on as well. There we go. So our LED lights up. When I turn it off, our LED turns off. So the voltage is flowing from this USB through this rail, from here to this set of tie points, through the resistor into the LED into this secondary rail, the ground here, then back up into my power supply. Okay, so it's a very simple device to deploy. You basically just plug it into your breadboard. One thing that I will caution you, I actually did this wrong myself the first time. Make sure you pay attention to the plus and minus that are here printed on the breadboard, because if you put it on the wrong end of the breadboard, if you mount it on this end instead of this end, you will have those swapped. That's not necessarily going to cause problems if you know that and if you wire your circuit accordingly. But if you do that accidentally, you may run into some issues, right? Because you're assuming that the voltage is going the other way. All right, so that's all there is to using an external power supply at MB102. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is that I've got a cool dot matrix display that I want to demonstrate in the next video, but that requires a little bit more current than I can push out through the Arduino's 5-volt line on its own. So I'm going to have to use one of these external power supplies. I wanted you to know what it was and why I'm using it. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.